good feed? Brilliant. How was Almaden? Yeah, that's the general response. Not much going on, is there, in Almaden today? I came to Almaden a couple of years before I started driving the train. I was at Cairns Tropical Zoo. I was doing a crocodile show, and there's a really pretty girl in the crowd. So I threw some cheeky comments at her, and she stayed behind after the show to further her knowledge on crocodiles. And we went out on a date that night, and we've been together ever since. Well, yeah, I don't know if she really loves me or she was just impressed by the size of my big croc, one or the other. Hey. But she says to me like a couple of weeks into the relationship, she's like, you know, if you like animals, you like the bush, you're going to love my family's holiday home. And my ears pricked up because she's quite pretty, and now it sounds like the family's got money. So I was like, oh. It took us a couple of years to get to the holiday home. Well, one day we planned for a week to come here. And I guess over those couple of years, I had this picture in my head of what it was going to look like. And yeah, it didn't kind of turn out like that. That's it there on the right. Yeah. I mean, it's full of bats, so that was nice. Yeah, there's no hot tub, anything like that.
One on the left.
Mel was actually, she was born and bred in Chillagoe, and her dad used to manage a mine out there called Red Dome. Anyhow, that was his halfway house. Once they got a bit older, the girls, their family moved to Cairns, but he bought that house there, and that was like where he lived during the week, and went back to the coast. But since he passed away back in 2012, those friends of mine, the termites that I was telling you all about, they've gone in and done a real number of them. But anyway, we are out of Almaden. We're going to start leaving the Wackerman country, and we're going to transition onto the lands of the barren people. What we've got to do now is get ourselves across to Dimbulah for afternoon tea. We've got about 2 hours to get over there, and in between here and Dimbulah we've got 3 ranges to get up and over as well. The first one we'll start climbing almost immediately, come down, cross over Pump Creek, and then we'll start climbing the Bismarck Range. After that we've got the Lapper Range, and then the Featherbed Range before coming into Dimbulah. Now, I just want to thank all you guys too. You made absolutely brilliant time. We're not running late anymore. We've actually got a little bit of time up our sleeves now, so that's good. That's excellent. So thanks heaps for getting back on the train and sitting down and getting counted. So yeah, this afternoon, lots of ups and downs. Still water in the creek there?
Yeah, a little bit.
I've never ever seen that before this time of year, no way. What's interesting, I was talking to that Bradley O'Shea once upon a time, over at Mount Prize. He was saying the reason his family settled there, pulled up stumps, in Spring Valley, is because of the springs that were everywhere here.
Oh yeah.
He said, and that, like in his great-grandfather's journal or whatever, that creek ran all year round with water, and that was like part of the reason why they set up here with plenty of water and fucking good. And he said, but you can read in the journals after that, over years, he said probably as we put more pumps in to get water to cattle and whatnot, the level in the creek dropped until finally, 100 years into his family having a place, the creek dried up one year. And the next year it dried up for a bit longer, and so on and so forth, till now where it's just this seasonal thing that only flows in the wet season and kind of dries up straight away. And I was like, yeah, right, that's crazy, I guess that's just the impact we have on the water table underneath us and where we're putting stuff. Since they've done all this fencing and they're now, regulating where the cows are going, much like, obviously we're seeing in Almaden itself, there's taller grasses and some shrubs and bits and pieces that are coming back. We've got our trees on the station platform. Cherry tomato popped up on the track. There's that little silver wattle that's popped up near there and stuff. It's late October, the creek's running. Like, there's all these little things. Bloody fluke, but it's not like last year's wet season was an incredibly massive one or anything. But yeah, you just wonder if you take a bit of pressure off stuff instead of pumping water out into bloody troughs all over. Cattle everywhere. Section in the cattle now where you can turn pumps off to those waters because we're not using them. Just put it in that one because that's the paddock they're in.
Where's the water for the water tower coming from, Mark?
Under the ground.
So it's a bore.
Yeah.
What out of the
Yeah, it should all come from the creek. Yeah.
It should do, but it's not, is it?
No, well, it's like there'll still be water under the ground, under the the sand in the creek. You just got to find it. See, when Judy put that bore in last year, they went down like 75 metres to get that water. But
I know ours in Toowoomba, where I grew up, that grandparents' place had a windmill, and we had the old windmill mechanic out there once, and it was a very deep bore. It was like 900 feet. Yeah, and that was a very deep, but that water was very good. It was really drinkable. It was a really deep, really pure water table under that area of Middle Ridge. That's why there's lots of small crop farms there. I could sink a bore and grow 5 acres of lettuces and veggies and stuff.
I was talking to John last week about springs on the basalt country. What's the connection? Why does the basalt country want to have them like that? And he just said because the basalt is it's pretty porous. He said, like, it does absorb a lot of water, and it just kind of channels it all into a particular way. He explained it to me and he did a better job. Like, it's coming down off the ranges, certain areas it's sitting, it just can't escape from, and other areas it channels into. But like the granite country's doing the exact same thing, but because the granite country is just so porous, it just all goes everywhere. But in the basalt, it's just more, it has to be channeled through certain spots, and so it may all drain away one day. But he said the wet season comes in and tops everything back up again. Like, it's not like it's coming up out of the ground or anything. He said, like, just constantly it's all from rain. It's not from the artesian basin or anything like that. And I also said to him, well, what about this artesian basin? So, because when it comes to the bores and shit out here, we get a lot of people ask about it. And he said, look, it's not really the artesian basin. He said, we're on the edge of it, right on the edge. Like, and we're getting the water that's just coming down into the ground. Our bores are here. Right. And we're pumping that out. He said, but if you go down further south into the artesian basin where it goes fucking deep down there, that's where that water is hot, it's full of sulphur, and so while we're on the edges of it, he said you wouldn't call it artesian water.
I often wonder if someone with technology now has got like a little micro drone that can go right in and explore around that whole basin inside and see what's in there, They reckon it's a gift, you either got it or you don't. I don't understand any of it.
My grandfather could do it. I never met him.
Yep.
Mum could do it if he touched her on the shoulder.
Yeah, right.
She could do it, but the minute you let go, she can't.
Because when I was about 9 years old down in Murphy's Creek, there's people we knew, and there's one guy there, he did it with 2 pieces of wire in an L shape, and he held it like pistols. One's shorter than the other. But you walk along, and all of a sudden, no matter how tight you grip them, they just start turning, and it's really trippy.
Les Fry was our, for Rocky City Council, he was the plumbing bloke. Because a lot of underneath the zoo and the gardens and everything, there were pipes that were put in there in the later part of the 1800s. And we've got no plans for where they are, what they do. That was his whole job. He was fully employed to walk around these bits of wire and find the pipes where the inspection spots are. And he just, I don't know, growing up in Rocky, there was a lot of that old wives' tale shit.
Yeah.
So when Mum, always brought me up with water diviners and stuff like that, you kind of believe it, and then you just go to the zoo and you got a problem with a leaky pipe, and the council fucking water diviner turns up with his bits of fucking wire, and he had a stick, a green stick as well. It had to be green. He'd just get it off a tree that morning, and it had a Y.
Yes, I've heard of that one.
But I think you have to put his.
You got to hold it with the wire, and then it flips up and down.
It goes, It goes weird. So when he turns up, he's like, oh yeah, that's what he does. It's not until you move away and you tell people about some of the things that come out. What?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but then you're like, yeah, water diviners, but then you tell people, like, the council paid a bloke, that was his job to walk around, I've never seen the movie. Russell Crowe coming a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Water diviner or something. Chanel, she came up here earlier in the year with her dad, friends of Rocky.
Oh, yeah.
Whatnot, Chanel, I was only talking to her the other day, and as a vet nurse, she was saying, because she lost a dog recently to a snake bite, and she said when she was a vet nurse, she said, the amount of people from Rocky that they would bring their dogs in, and they'd just chop the tips of their ears off. Because she said in Rocky there's this thing that if your dog gets bitten by a snake, chop the tips of its ears off, it'll bleed all the venom straight out and it'll be okay. But because it's a lot of snake venom's an anticoagulant, whenever they go chopping the tips of their dog's ears off, they just bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed, and next thing the dog's running out of blood and they're rushing up to the vet. It works every time, but no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's horribly cruel too.
Yeah. And as I said, I kind of forget there's those things in Rocky, like, don't know and ever puts milk out there for your cats, because they're just snakes. All the snakes will turn up. I don't really hear much of that kind of crap up here. Mum used to do, she'd get a wedding ring and a piece of her hair, put it above your fingers and tell you how many kids you have and what sexes you're having. last big trip for the year. Hamish and I, we've probably dropped the professionalism ball this trip, haven't we? I think we've been a bit casual, we're getting ready to go on holiday. So we might as well keep that ball rolling. Do you want to see something rude? I mean, why not, you know?
Do Cock Rock here too.
Yeah, we'll do that one too. There's a couple of hills out there, side by side, almost identical to each other. You see them? They're called Sheba's breasts. That's all I know about them. I've got no idea who named them or discovered them, but I bet you any mate was a man. I bet you've been lost to here for quite some time. You probably haven't seen a woman in months, maybe years. Dying of thirst, he looks up and he's like, oh, hello ladies. He climbed to the top and he died underneath the tree with a smile on his face. Anyway, there's Sheba's breasts. Nature being rude. I've got a funny one I'll show you later on, but there is a real reason why I point them out too. We came through Utan, you know where the lime quarry was on the other side of Almaden? When we came through Utan, we went directly beside them. You wouldn't even have noticed. Hamish was going to point him out. He had a bit of trouble finding him this morning. So it gives you an idea that Almaden is like this real dog's leg. If you go and have a look on the toilet door there's a map. And if you kind of look at where Almaden is and where the railway goes, we do this big kind of, well, not quite a horseshoe, but yeah, this big kink in the track where we come into Almaden and then we've got to go straight back out of it again. Obviously because the railway that we're on now, the Chillagoe-Mungana line, this was the original railway, the Etheridge line was the afterthought. So the original railway, the Etheridge line is the afterthought. So they had known things were going to go. Things were going to go the way they were going to go, the two railways would not look the way they look. There probably would be a much more direct track kind of built all the way through. But anyway, that's how things happen. And I'm still glad that they happen like that because it's one of those things that adds to the awesome character of this line. Over the peak of the Bismarck range, it's only a small range. We're going to come down to cross over Pea Creek, so Pea is in green pea or snow pea. After that we'll start climbing the Lapper range.
What if we don't want to, can we do something different today?
Let's go to the Han Tablelands.
Yeah, let's do that. Actually, no, bugger that. I'd like to go to Mount Garnet when we get to Lapper. I'll just chuck it right there.
Okay. Sort that out for you.
few big rocks.
That's cool.
I'll kick them off because they'd be a little bit painful.
Yeah. Where do they come from? There's some rocks on the line. We've had a landfall. Look here. I don't know. They must have come from up there somewhere. Hamish is just going to move them off. They're just a bit big to run over. That's all.
Oh my goodness.
Not leaves on the line. You've got rocks on the line. 2 big balls.
Haha, look at Hamish out the window getting his rocks off. We have this happen from time to time, but usually it's like in a couple of weeks' time when the storms turn up. You get a big storm at night, and quite often will come up. There's a few rocks like this, but I don't think I've ever seen one this time of day.
So it's like marble, isn't it?
I don't think he realises they're not footballs. You don't kick them.
Sorry, I'll get out of your way.
No, don't worry about me. Depending where it's finished.
We just all watched as you got your rocks off. Yeah, I said to him, I said, yeah, you don't know anything about me, you've never asked or anything. She's like, well, what do you want me to ask? What am I supposed to ask about? I said, you can ask about anything. I said, ask about the family. We're married, we've But it's like that, you know, we say these multiple wonders, you know, they're really entitled. You know, it's like, I'm probably biased, it's like our generation, I just don't think ours is. It just doesn't seem like, but then the next one is, like, yeah.
Well, our generation said, you know, you can have anything you want, but you've got to work for it. That's what, you know, I would think you've got to generate it or earn it.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I think they're born into it and just that's how it is. That's why I think a lot of them have depression because they got this expectation that, yeah, I'm going to get everything, and then they don't. There's the misalignment of expectation right there at the bottom. This isn't what I planned.
Yeah.
I plan to be making $5 million a year and buying a brand new Lamborghini every year. A lot of these kids think that. I make that shudder. bloody mate of mine found me a bloody original engine for me bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Showed me last night.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that could be a game changer, that, depending on what he wants for it. He's got all receipts for a major rebuild not that long ago too, like, well, it's done very little work since the rebuild, you know, so it's basically a new engine. It's original. It's lying on its side in the bus that it's in, but those AEC engines, you can stand them vertical as well. You just got to change the oil pump pickup. It's not much work to do, but they can run vertical or horizontal. About putting in a more modern engine. Half the appeal of that bus was the sound of that particular motor in it. You know, you'd hear the thing coming a mile away, just that little burble.
Do you do Cuidad on the way out?
Nah. I don't do it on the way out. I'm very quiet on the way out.
That's right.
Afternoons. Leaves it for morning bloke today. So you enjoy it.
Oh, well, no.
Please have my meal. I will go without so you can have this.
It's a barren word, pronounced Cobra. Cobra means barren place. Once upon a time, was it later part of the 1800s into the early 1900s, there was a few mines in the local area around us. Most of them were just tin. But one of them was Wolfram. So Wolfram is a German word for tungsten. We always tend to refer to it as Wolfram in North Queensland. I don't know why. Why don't we just call it tungsten? But my theory is that when this Wolfram mine was in production, the biggest customer was Germany. They were buying heaps of it. So from here, it would go into wagons. It would be taken back to the coast, loaded on the ships, head to London at that point, and then sold to Germany. They were the biggest customer of it, and the Wolfram mine here at Cobra, for its time, was supplying the world with about 90% of its Wolfram needs. So I guess it's so productive, Germany's buying most of it, they call it Wolfram, maybe that's just why we still call it Wolfram today, by the way. But it's a metal that has an extremely high melting temperature. So you use it in any kind of applications where something's going to get hot and you don't want it to lose its integrity. The filament in an old school light bulb used to be made out of tungsten. Obviously things like tungsten tip screws and certain drill bits and pieces like that. And ammunition, a lot of Wolfram goes into the manufacturing of bullets. It's kind of why Germany was buying so much of it at the time. They were getting regulars, huh? I read a book once, and there was a little anecdote in there from a bloke who lived here at Cabora. He worked in the Wolfram mine back in the day. His name was Darby McNamara, and he went off to fight in the war. He'd come back years later. He was being interviewed by a writer for this book, and old Darby tells a story where he was off fighting in the war. He's in the trenches, And he had this moment of irony, and he just couldn't help but start laughing to himself. Apparently the other fellas in the trenches with him kind of thought that he'd lost it, because they're getting shot at. And he was giggling. And he had to explain to them that he couldn't help but just find the whole situation funny, because he had been working so hard to get the wool from out of the ground that's now being shot back at him. So even at a time like that, you know, he's trying to make a joke. But the township that was here to support those tin mines and that one Wolfram mine, it was just known as Corborough, and it had a population of about 2,500 people, when Cairns had a population of about 4,000 people. So it wasn't too far behind Cairns at all. We're just about to drive into downtown Corborough. This is where the CBD was. Now there's pretty much nothing left of it today. Once you get out of this cutting, if you look out on the right hand side through the bush, you can see the remnants of the last Kaburan resident's house. So just through the trees out the right hand side, you'll see some bits of corrugated iron, still some of the timber uprights are standing up. But that bloke, he hung around long after the war. He was just like a bit of a tin scratcher hermit that lived here up until the 80s, I think it was. Now this township, 2,500 people lived here. They were a fairly classy mob. They weren't your average outback mining hicks. They actually had the first performing arts centre in North Queensland. They really liked putting on plays and shows and productions. The mines in the area were even named after Shakespearean characters. They had a brass band, which apparently, in the state competition, only ever came second to Brisbane's. So it was pretty good. And I even read on the Mareeba Historical Society website that Kabura had a roller skating rink. There's no picture of it, but they say that it was near the railway siding. So we've got the siding here on the left, remnants of an old loading ramp there on the left, so the skating rink, if it was here somewhere. But you can see where the town would have been out here on the right. Not much or anything really left now. Tamarind trees, mango trees, big frangipani over there. Would have been in the front of businesses, I guess, or the backyards. Not much or anything really left now. Tamarind trees, mango trees, big frangipani over there. Would have been in the front of businesses, I guess, or backyards. But like a lot of the those little towns out here, you know, mineral prices plummeted after the war, the mine shut down, people packed up and disappeared. Off they went. A couple of years ago, oh not a couple of years ago, a bit more than that now, geez, probably six or 7 years ago, I was bringing a group out on the Wednesday, and we're coming down to Kabura, and I spoke about it and kind of told everyone exactly what I just told you. But while I was talking, this bloke come up, he sat there next to me, this old fella, and he looked like he really wanted to ask me questions, so I wound it up and I was like, yeah, you're right, mate, yeah. He wanted to know if there was a cemetery here. And there is. I told him that there is a cemetery, and he wanted to know if we can stop the train and can we go and have a look at it, and we can't. Unable to do that because the cemetery's not here, it's on the other side of those hills, just next to the road, the Burke Development Road that connects Mareeba through to Almaden. I've been there, I've seen it, there's, I don't know, half a dozen headstones there, some unmarked graves. Anyway, he then went on to say, well, is there any way that I can get back out to that cemetery this afternoon? I said, I don't know, like, what are you supposed to be doing? And he was staying in Chillagoe and doing the cave tours and everything, and he and his wife were travelling with another couple. And he said, is there a car rental in Chillagoe? I was like, no, there's not. And I said, well, look, if you're really desperate to get there, maybe you could bribe a local, go into the pub, and tell someone you'll put fuel in their car and buy them a carton of beer. And he said, yeah, righto. So I said, why? Why do you got to get out of that cemetery? And he went on to tell me he was really like manic, like erratic and excited. He had never met his birth father. His mother was pregnant with him when his father died in a mining accident in a town called Cuidad. He knew that that was an old mining town that didn't exist anymore. He knew that it was somewhere in northern Australia, but he didn't know that the Savannahlander was going to pass directly through the guts of it. So for him, you know, he's seen this opportunity to find his father's grave and kind of meet his dad for his very first time. This bloke, he's like in his 80s. So anyway, I said to him, well, good luck with it, mate, and off he went. And the next morning, he got back off the train. And I was pretty keen to find out how he went, so he told me, he got to Chillagoe, his wife and their friends, they continued to do the cave tour. And he went, got a car from a local, drove back out, past Almaden, out to the cemetery, and he spent as long as he possibly could trying to find his dad's grave, but he couldn't. There's only a few there that you can really read the names of. Some of the headstones are illegible, and like I said, there's unmarked graves, so he couldn't find anything. And felt pretty defeated, so he jumped in the car and he went back to Chillagoe. Took the car back to the owner, gave him, you know, a carton of beer and filled up petrol, kept his word and all that. Everyone in the pub was pretty keen to see how he went. He said, no luck. I said, no worries. Anyway, I said, look, I might go for a bit of a walk, clear my head a little bit. Probably got a bit excited for nothing, so off he went for a walk. He found himself down at the Chillagoe cemetery. He reckons he saw this kookaburra land in a tree. And the way the light was and everything was quite a pretty photo, so he put his camera up to his eye and he was trying to frame this kookaburra, and he took a couple of steps forward to get it in the frame. And he kind of tripped. And he looked down to see what he tripped over. It was a corner of a grave, but not just any grave, it was his dad's. He reckons at that point he lost all like sensation in his legs and he just fell over, and he said he was in this state, this hysterical state of disbelief. He said, I was putting my hand on the grave to see if it was really there, and he was laughing and crying, and he just couldn't believe it. It took him a few minutes to gather his thoughts and get himself together. But once he sorted himself out, he ended up going to the Chillagoe shop and he got a scrubbing brush and a bucket with a bit of detergent or something, and he went back and pulled back all the dead grass off the grave and scrubbed up the headstone a bit, made it as pretty as possible, and he took 2 beers with him. And when he finished tidying it all up, he opened up both beers, he put one on his dad's grave and he sat there and drank the other. And that afternoon he had his very first beer with his dad, and I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Like this bloke, he was just glowing. Like he had this, the way he explained it to me is, he reckons that he's always felt like your life is like a puzzle, and there's pieces all over the place, and as you go through life you put pieces where they belong. But some pieces you've lost, and you're never going to be able to put them where they belong, and he just considered his birth that kind of piece. So he said he found that piece and he put it back where it belonged, and it just made him feel fantastic, and everyone on the train was so happy for him. It was absolutely brilliant. What he assumes, he doesn't really know, because his mother never really spoke too much about his biological father. She remarried shortly afterwards, and her husband raised this boy as his own. He always called him Dad. He never treated him any differently from any of the other kids that they went on to go and have. So maybe just to respect him, she didn't really talk about her husband that had passed. But what he assumes may have happened is his husband or his dad probably didn't die straight away in the mining accident. Maybe he died later on. he was probably put in the rail ambulance that used to operate out here back in the day. This really funky machine operated on the tracks. It was an ambulance, but it was a bloody rough ride. They reckon you got off it more injured than when you got on. So that's probably taken him into the Chillagoe hospital, where he's died a few days later and buried in the cemetery there. But it's little stories like that. That's just another one of those things that makes this job, I reckon, so bloody amazing, so worthwhile. When you hear for years and years and years, you get to experience those little things and to see how it can have a massive impact on a passenger's life. How they can walk away feeling absolutely fantastic about stuff. It's lovely to be part of. Anyway, those photos above you, someone will have a photo of Cuidad Township. I think I've got a couple of them there somewhere underneath the parcel racks. And there's also a really cool photo. I found it at the Cairns Museum on the archives when I typed in Cuidad. There's a photo of a card game. Someone will have it above them. Yeah, and you can see it's set up, or they're cheating, but it's set up for a photo. But reportedly, all the information that the Cairns Museum had, that was taken in Cuidad. So. Probably got headphones in, Russ.
Yeah, I know. Just trying to let's go on a bit.
Yeah.
Got this one like other places. Let's go on. It's fantastic. You do a fantastic job.
There's still so many secrets out there that we don't know, you know. And
Yeah, talking to people. Oh, sorry. No, it's been a lot of years. I'm not going to pull up the landing page. Things like this will make it fun.
over the peak of the Lappa Range. We're now just about to come down into where the old township of Lappa was located once upon a time. Another little township that sprung up due to a junction in the line. So there was a branch line here, 53 kilometres of track went over to service the mines at Mount Garnet. They ripped it up in 61, but it's a four-wheel drive track now. We're just going to cross over it. So this little dirt track in front of us, if you went left, that'd get you down onto the Burke Development Road, the road between Almaden and Mareeba. But if you went right, that gets you back onto the old rail corridor. I've never done it myself, but plenty of people I know have, and they all reckon it's very, very evident that it's an old rail corridor. And I can't remember what it is, there's an accepted way to do it. I think you're supposed to start at Mount Garnet and come this way, because there's some areas like cuttings and stuff where if two cars meet, someone now has to reverse for a bloody long way around this really old, dodgy cutting on an old railway corridor before they can kind of pass each other, so they try and do it always in one direction. There's still a couple of 100 metres of that line left. If you look out to the right, you might be able to see some of it through the dry grass just here. It's a pretty steep decline coming down from that line, which was a concern. I'll show you why shortly. But the only things left here now, the Espinol Hotel, the old pub out on the left. So that was first licensed in 1901, lost its license in 1961. Still doesn't have a license to sell alcohol. I'm not saying you can't buy beer there, I'm just saying it's not legal. And then a little Lappa station here on the right. It was looking really bad. Stations all got refurbished and repainted. It looks quite pretty now. But yeah, the concern, a train coming down that steep decline, if its brakes failed, it'd run down, get onto this line, and it could have a head-on collision with the train that was coming up. So they built this runaway siding, you can see it just here on the right. If for whatever reason a train's brakes failed and it was coming down faster than what it should be, they could throw a set of points and divert the train into this runaway siding where it comes up a hill. Hopefully a bit of the speed of the train would wash off, and then it would run smack bang into that big rock. what we've tried to find out. It was never actually used, but that's what it was there for. They kind of rather one train load of 10 people than two, I guess. North Control, C99 through Lappa, 1254 over. Down this side of the Lappa Range, got some pretty views out there. But just on this side of the Lappa Range, and only in this little local area that we're moving through now, there's a strong population of cycads. So if you look out either side of the train as we're moving through, you should be able to see them. They look like little palm trees, but they're not palm trees. They are prehistoric predecessors to palm trees. They're much older than that. A lot of people call them dinosaur plants because this group of plants goes back to about 180 million years. Part of a really ancient group of plants called gymnosperms. Cycads, I love nature, is their reproductive cycle. So there's boys and girls. You get boys and girls on lots of plants. These ones are pretty easy to tell apart when they're breeding. So you can see a girl out there on the left hand side. You see the one with the little round balls in the middle of it? They're ovules. So basically ovaries, you know, she's getting ready to breed right now. The boys, they're easy to find too. I've got to be careful about how I talk about boys. I don't want to be rude. They send out an appendage of sorts. It's a very long, erect, phallic looking kind of a growth. Comes right out of the centre of the plant, sticks straight up in the air. Now when it's ready, it produces sperm in a powdery form. There's another name, they don't call it pollen, there's another name for it, I can't remember. And all this powdery sperm comes out, floats on the wind, and hopefully lands on top of some of these ovules. Now when it lands there, one of those tiny little powdery packets, a little hormonal reaction will happen and it will germinate within itself, and it sends down this microscopic hollow straw down into the centre of the ovule, at which point that little tiny packet of powder releases a single free swimming sperm that travels down that little tube and bang straight into the middle, fertilising that little ovule. Here's another sexy Sheila out here on the left hand side. Cool, with the ovules on it, right? Woo! Now once the male's done, it kind of just flops over and then falls off. See that tree out on the left too? It's got that rough bark. See in the fork of the tree, there's one of those barbecue koalas that you're talking about. So that's a arboreal too, I mean. Now that little ovule, once it's fertilised, it'll swell, it'll grow a little bit. Basically pop off mum, roll down a hill somewhere and hopefully settle in a spot where it can then continue its germination and grow into a cycad. Now whenever I learn about stuff like that in nature, if I learn about how an animal or a plant, how they reproduce, how they hunt, quirky little thing about their biology to help them survive, I find it terribly interesting, but I can't help but wonder what it would be like if that's how we did stuff. Like, could you imagine if that's how we reproduced? You wouldn't take your missus anywhere on a windy day, would you? Sperm floating around everywhere. Like, you'd have to be real careful. You lock her up in the house, shut all the bloody windows. Don't let her out. All of a sudden it's all still. Your wife's like, oh, come on, let me get out of the house. Yeah, all right, I'll take you for a walk around the block. The breeze picks up. You're out the front of some Korean bloke's house. Look out. Asian babies everywhere. There you look after them. But that's nature for you. It's all the little surprises. The other thing with the cycads too is they're toxic. If you eat them, bad things will happen to you. Not just vomiting and diarrhea, but like renal failure, death. And a lot of vets recommend that if you've got a dog, don't clean a cycad in the backyard. Because they will chew on them and they can kill themselves. The barren people that live through here, and indigenous people that lived in areas where cycads grow, they did figure out how to eat them, but it took a really long step-by-step process to try and rid the vegetation of any of the toxins. If you look out, hold on, the right-hand side, right in front of the train, if you look out the right and you look up, that's a boy. He's finished doing his thing, and you see his organs kind of flopped over now and drop off shortly. But yeah, the process, they'd have to like get the ovules or the vegetation, they'd have to like pound it into a pulp, at which point they would wrap it up into a really tight dilly bag, stick it in a running creek and just let it leach, probably for days on end, before they get it back out, smack the hell out of it again, roast it, wrap it back up the dilly bag, back in the creek, like it just went on and on. Eventually they got rid of the toxin and they were left with like a pretty starchy flour that they could turn into a bit of a damba. I don't know how many indigenous people died trying to figure out how to eat it, would have been hundreds, thousands. So this particular species of cycad is Cycas platyphila. Now there's only two spots on the entire planet where you find it. One of them is right here and the other one is about 40k south of here. I don't know what is 40k south of here, but I assume it's very, very similar habitat to this. But because of that kind of unique reproductive cycle, because it takes so long for those little cycads to grow, you know, they've got to land in the exact right spot in order to germinate and grow. These guys, they can be poached and made extinct from local areas very, very easily. If you ever drive between Mareeba and Almaden, when you come through this section, you'll notice within walking distance, there's like no cycads from the road. A lot of people come out and try and pick them and take them home, put them in the garden, because they're quite expensive if you want to go and buy one and do the right thing. But unfortunately, these particular cycads, they're so specific to these areas that even if you dug them out of the ground successfully, you'd probably take them home and kill it anyway. K-pop trees through here still in flower, the nice yellow flowers up there on the wood. As we've been cruising through the savannah all throughout the trip, you may have seen our northern cypress pines. There's one just in front of me here on the right hand side of the track. Just looks like a Christmas tree. That's Calitris intratropica, native to the area. People don't really expect to see, you know, pine trees like that growing through the savannah, but we do have them. Termite resistant, so back in the day they were very popular to build things out of. And very aromatic when you burn the timber. Beautiful smell comes out of it. Some other cool trees through here too. If you look out on the left, you'll see these trees have these little black seed pods hanging on them everywhere. They're a grevillea, they're called Grevillea glauca, but the common name is like the bushman's peg tree. I've got one of the seeds up here on the dash. Kind of looks like Pac-Man, you know that video game? But inside that, there's two flaky seeds, and when it's ready, nice and dry, it opens up like that, the seeds come out. But they call them bushman's peg tree because the settlers used to use them as pegs, hanging out the clothes on the line. I went up to a place called Hopevale outside of Cooktown. I went for this big walk on country with this elder up there, Willie Gordon, and we came across one and he said to me, "Oh, do you know what we use this for?" And me being smart aleck white man that knows it all, said, "Oh yeah, bushman's peg tree, right." He said, "Oh, that's probably what your people use it, but my people have a different use for it." And he showed me, he got a nice green springy stick, he just snipped it off a tree, nice green springy, and he wedged that on the end of the stick. And he was a crack shot with it. You kind of flick the stick, that comes flying off the end of it. And he said, if you're a really good shot, you can hit squatter pigeons. If you've come up and you've spent any time at the front of the train, we've got this little species of native pigeon up here all over the track. Squatter pigeons. So if you hit one of them, you stun it long enough so you can run over and grab it and eat it. And he said, so that was squatter pigeon season. When the bushman's pegs were open and ready to go, that's when they ate squatter pigeons. And when they were, squatter pigeons get a rest, have a chance to breed back up again until the next season. Down there. Has anyone heard of the Great Wheelbarrow Race? Yeah, it's getting more and more popular. We had our first one after COVID earlier this year, and it was good. It was a great turnout. It was excellent. But back when that Chillagoe mining company opened up, they advertised jobs. They wanted people to come out to Chillagoe, work in the smelters, come and get a job. The deal was the guys had to get to Mareeba. When they got to Mareeba, they had to buy their own wheelbarrow, their own pick and their own shovel. They basically put their belongings in the wheelbarrow and they started walking. They walked from Mareeba to Chillagoe to start work. So it got known as the Wheelbarrow Way. Just that section between Almaden, between Mareeba and Chillagoe. It's 144 kilometres in length. Now, 20 odd years ago, some local councillors had a great idea to commemorate that walk and draw attention, I guess, to it by holding the annual wheelbarrow race. So it's like a race, it's over 3 days, like a marathon, but you have to push a wheelbarrow. The first section, Mareeba to Dimbulah, to stay there the night. Then Dimbulah to Almaden, stay there the night. Then Almaden through to Chillagoe. Usually when they have it, we come into Almaden right as the very first runners for that section are coming over the finish line. But it's a really good weekend. They raise money for a charity of their choice. You could run it by yourself. Most people do it in a team. So you might have 10 people doing it. You got a little van that's driving next to you, you jump out, whatever it is you do, 5-minute intervals, whatever. Jump out, grab the wheelbarrow, jump back inside the van again. And initially, when they kicked it off, you used to have people dressing up in costumes, they would decorate their wheelbarrows with weird stuff. Obviously, at the end of every day, everyone's in the pub, they all got really drunk, they wake up the next morning with a massive hangover just to go and run another 45 kilometres pushing a wheelbarrow. But over the years, it's become more and more popular, more and more people turn up to it, and these days it's really quite serious. Like, the runners shave their legs. That's how serious it gets. Kelso sponsors all the wheelbarrows. They've even got an official before the start of the race that goes around and measures the air pressure in all the tyres to make sure that everyone's equal. And at the end of the day, instead of having a few beers, they have electrolytes and the appropriate amount of protein and carbohydrates. Getting ready for the next day, they take it, really seriously. But usually they do it pretty early May. So the Lapper Range is a pretty big one, takes us a little while to get up and over that, but we're now on the other side of it, just about to come through another old mining town of it's home to like the most outback Queensland house in existence. The couple that own it, the Rookwoods, his dad bought it back in 1953. It's kind of been in the family ever since. And they just maintain it. They live there. But they just maintain it. Like there's no plans to knock it down and build a more modern house. If a rusty piece of roofing iron gets a hole in it, they take it off and they replace it with a rusty piece of roofing iron that doesn't have a hole in it. Just going to pop up on the right hand side. It's pretty good, isn't it? Pretty good, isn't it? Rumour has it when Prince Harry and that Meghan Markle got married, their honeymoon, didn't they? On the left is our little train station for Bedford. It's a legitimate one. You know, technically got to have a look inside and make sure no one's in there waiting for a train. No one today, fancy that. That's the old shop over on the right there. And then over on the left hand side is the old school building. That's that building out there, the red roof. Over it is heritage listed. The steel in this bridge was reclaimed steel from the Victoria Bridge in Brisbane, the Albert Bridge as well, I think it was, and the Indooroopilly Bridge. So back in 1893 there was a massive flood in Brisbane and those bridges were all washed away. So once the flood was over they reclaimed it, got the steel out, and for whatever reason Brisbane didn't want it. They weren't going to reuse that steel, they were going to build brand new bridges from scratch. So we bought it up here. They sailed it up in barges and they used that steel to build a few bridges, not just this one, but there was one behind us and another couple in front of us used to build those rail bridges. On top of that, the timber parts of the bridge are done a little bit differently as well. The transoms, which are sleepers on a bridge, call them transoms, they don't run laterally with the line, they run longitudinally. You don't see that apparently too much in rail bridges, and the reason they had to do that was because, keeping in mind that this was a reclaimed bridge from Brisbane that was originally designed for cars to drive over, not trains. So apparently using these longitudinal sleepers helps with that. Three ranges between Almaden and Dimbulah. This next one is the featherbed range. As we climb up it, you'll see Emu Creek come in on the left hand side. another water tank up there on the right. Used to service the steam locos that operated out here. While it was taking on water, plant a couple of mango trees so the drivers could sit here and eat mangoes. And there was a pump that was down on the left. Up into that tank there, and the family who was responsible for looking after that pump and maintaining it, they lived in a house out here on the left hand side. Hamish and I got out there years ago and went for a bit of a walk around. You could find where the foundations of the house were, where the kitchen used to be and stuff. Well, we get to the peak of the featherbed, we're going to do a big right hand turn. Emu Creek is going to disappear out the left hand side, and a little creek is going to pull up, known as Adder Creek. For a couple of 100 metres, there's a really nice little gorge that it runs through that's just locally known as Adder Creek Gorge. doing to get back to Cairns?
I got tomorrow in Cairns, and I'm taking the Spirit down to Townsville, then fly home from there.
Yep.
I got a gig with the Discovery mob too.
Oh, eh?
I was shoveling coal into a steamer on the Pitchy Ritchie.
Yeah, right.
When they visited us there. That's the Canadian mob, isn't it? Or was that a different group you were filming with?
We had an Aussie mob. They were from Prospero Productions. They were based in WA.
Okay, now we had a Canadian group called Discovery.
Yeah, right.
And we had Michael Portillo a couple of years ago.
Yeah. When we heard that he was here, we wanted to try and get in contact and see if he'd come out on this, because it seems to be right up his alley, you know, plenty of history to talk about on the way.
Oh, okay, because he did...
he got on the KSR, that was it, yeah.
He did Brisbane to Cairns, as he did 6 parts in Australia. We got a really good luck with him. We got Well, he was with us for 2 days, but
Yeah, right.
over different weekends. They came one weekend, the crew worked out photo positions, and then he rode on the train for 2 hours the next weekend.
Yeah.
But we got about 10 minutes in the doco, which was, you know,
Yeah,
fantastic publicity. You had to pay for it, it'd kill you.
Yeah. I would have loved to have gotten, what's his name, Tony Robinson? You know, Baldrick from Blackadder. Did you ever watch Blackadder back in the day?
Oh yeah, Blackadder.
Yeah. Yeah, the little pauper bloke. He did a really good doco up here on Cairns and oh, it was all through Queensland he went, but he ended up on the Grand to Sydney Rail train, Spirit of Queensland and whatnot. But yeah,
Yeah, Griff's been doing some stuff here
Yeah.
recently. I'm just amazed how good the track is for such limited operation. You've obviously got a lot of confidence in it.
yeah, the track boys reckon they only really need one in every 4 sleepers to be any good to hold us. So we've got, you know, pretty much 4 out of every 4 sleepers are good. So
But this rides pretty well, doesn't it?
yeah. Well, we stick to our speed limits, but if we've had a medical emergencies on board, we push it, and the faster you drive them, the better it handles. Yeah. It's like the bumps go away and it just coasts over the top of it.
You come off a couple of times?
Nah, never on the main line.
Wow.
We've derailed twice in Forsayth on the exact same set of points, turning around in the afternoon. So we're only going, you know, 2 kilometres an hour when it happens. But that's one of those bloody what if things we talk about too, you know, the longer it goes when we don't, the closer the day comes it's going to happen. But providing you drive to your conditions, don't speed, don't hit the corners too quickly, should be right.
Stop running November, do you?
Yeah, it'll be the 25th or something this year, is the last day.
So if you came up in April, it's a bit hit and miss, is it?
Yeah.
You could be stuck in Cairns for a week or 2.
Yeah, we've been, I've had seasons where we got out on the first week of March as planned and everything was great for the year. Then other seasons where we didn't get out. Well, this year, I don't think we didn't get all the way until late April, early May.
That was repairing damage, was it? Well, I guess at least with that, you've got a bit of warning. You can ring and say, you wouldn't come up and get caught in Cairns.
Yeah, yeah. Look, we'll always give as much warning as we possibly can give. And for situations like that, you know, like everyone gets full refunds. Like,
Yeah, it's the time that's the problem.
yeah.
When's peak for you up here?
Kind of like May through to now. Next week, apparently, the numbers dropped right off.
Telling us to go.
Yeah.
Bloody cheap.
Yes.
What's the range with the pointy bits on it?
Up here.
Yeah.
Well, the extreme pointy bit is the Boon Moo Pinnacle. Boon Moo, like Boon like cricket player, Moo like a cow. Yeah.
Thank you.
But the mounds themselves, I'd say, are just part of the featherbed range. They're the same one as just went over.
Okay. They're a bit distinctive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you doing to get back to Cairns?
Oh, go back to Wombley.
Back to- Right. Is that where you are? Nice.
Yeah, it's the west.
Plenty of worse places to live, eh?
Pardon?
Plenty of worse places to live.
Oh yeah, much worse. So where's this? Which one is the peak? Blue Moon?
Yeah, that's it on the right.
Right at the end.
Yeah. I suppose, from what I've heard, there's a cave at the top and a back there.
Oh really?
Rah, 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 but I don't know anyone who's actually been up there. It's just, you know,
Can you get access there though?
apparently there's a walking track that goes up, but
Okay.
once again, I don't know anyone who's ever done it.
So the real pointy ones. the one-
Yeah.
Okay.
So we kind of wrap around the base of it.
Yes. So it was over there before.
Yeah.
We don't use this one anymore. This does not get used.
That's a handbrake.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So yeah, whenever we pull the train up, we'll put it on.
You're right.
Otherwise, it's bloody embarrassing.
And don't you say this here along the train, is that kilometres from a point?
Yeah, every time we start a new branch line. So Almaden, because that's the start of the Etheridge line, that's 0,
Yeah.
and then 229 is Forsayth.
Okay.
But now we're back on the Chillagoe Mangana line, so just out of Almaden it was 119,
Okay.
and we'll go all the way back to Mareeba, which is 0. Then we rejoin the Cairns Railway, and that's like 75, I think, back to 0. At which point we then rejoin the East Coast line, so that's 1,642, and Brisbane is 0.
Yeah. Sort of irrigation lines. See it?
Yeah, probably just to fill up cattle troughs.
What's this tower?
Oh, there used to be a old crossing loop here back in the day. This place is called Cuidad. So there was a township at Boon Moo, and they had a train station here and everything, and siding and whatnot. But when that all shut down due to plummeting mineral prices and mine shut down, they realised they had nowhere that trains could cross between like Dimbulah and Lappa, the top of the range. So one train would have to sit there and wait until one went all the way up before it could go again. So here at Cuidad they put in a crossing loop here.
Oh, so you can
So,
follow over.
yeah.
Okay, and that's not working anymore. Yeah. Why do they leave all the wood on the side from the sleepers?
I don't know, it's lazy. They could have picked it up and taken it back, and maybe these days they'd be made to do it.
Yeah, put it up there.
Yeah.
Because it would be bushfires through here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
My partner, she went back to uni to do like mature age student stuff. She's doing environmental practice, it's like water and land management stuff. So she's really interested in that, like you know, the rehabilitation or restoration of mine sites, work sites,
Yeah,
places
that's
like that.
good.
And when they were doing that Forsayth Creek, that spring-fed creek.
Yeah.
They dammed it up and everything. She was like, you better be taking photos of that on.
But it's cleared anyway.
Yeah.
Is she doing that online or is she doing?
No, she goes into James Cook Uni. Yeah. Just about finished. She's doing soils at the moment.
Okay.
And after that, she's got to do placement.
Where do what? Placement?
Placement, yeah, like she's got to go somewhere and work for 3 months, I think it is, for free. And yeah,
Has she got a placement yet? Where's she going to do it?
I'm not too sure. Cairns Regional Council is probably the most convenient, but it's not really what she wants to do.
Yeah.
The bloke who lives across the road, he's in environmental compliance.
Yeah.
So he works for the council, he walks around, just issues fines. She doesn't really want to do that. Well, she'd like to do something more hands-on. And
Yeah.
she's really interested in your, what is it, C4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been going for a long time.
Yeah. Are you back on the rainforest or anything, like in the yard? Or?
We had a farm.
Yep.
We just sold it. It was right back up to Tablelands, to the Etheridge.
Okay. So plenty of cassowaries and stuff.
We've only just started getting them back from the cyclone.
Right.
Yeah, long time. But yeah, there are cassowaries all through this range. But they all headed up here after the cyclone.
Yep.
A lot of them disappeared. So
I've never seen one in Mission Beach personally. Like,
Okay.
I've seen at Branston.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
There's a couple, they go on the cattle properties and they used to come up to the farm. We used to have 3 that were resident
Yep.
until the cyclone, and then we've seen one young one this year. He's just, I don't know whether it was a male or a female. Yeah. So we're retired and we're retiring.
Yeah.
So we go for somewhere smaller. Very nice.
You never had an old bus on your property by any chance, did you?
No.
There's an old bus that Hamish used to ride around in when he was a kid from Toowoomba,
Okay.
called Mogambo, and he's been looking for it. And the last bit of information that he has was around that like Mission Beach area,
Yeah.
that apparently it was sitting in someone's farm being used as like, it was decked out like a motorhome, but being used for accommodation for like farm workers or something.
It's a single story. Is that a double story?
Yeah, single, yeah.
Single story. Okay. I'll ask Maury. Maury's been there a lot of things. Well, I hope you might find something.
the last of the cattle stations that we're going to cross over. This is the Boon Moo cattle station. Boon like a cricket player, moo like a cow. And once we get across this one, we're going to start coming back into the lands of farming fruits and veggies and sugar cane and stuff like that. Just in front of us was the location of the old Boon Moo township, another township that popped up around the junction and along. But this time it was a 2-foot gauge tramway. And it went over to the right hand side. There's 17 kilometres to a place called Stannery Hills to service the mines there. And it was a few years later extended, I think, another 13 k's to service a place called Irving Bank. There are about 800 people lived here in the town. A couple of pubs. But nothing left these days. That's the homestead over on the right hand side, over your shoulder there, for the Boon Moo cattle station. Very shortly we'll transition back into fruit and veggie farms. Well, we've kind of done it already. I mean, there's a mango plantation down the left hand side, but you can see that plantation, that's been let go. They don't farm the mangoes there anymore. That's owned by the Wilkinson family. Dad makes more money as a boilermaker than a mango farmer, so we just stopped trimming the trees and doing it years ago now. Irrigation network that all stems from Lake Tinaroo. It's just on the outskirts of that. And that's pretty much what defines cattle country and the fruit and veggie farms, is where that irrigation network gets to. But I should rewind a little bit. So the first major industry to take off in the Tablelands area, just west of Cairns, was logging. And that was from the 1880s all the way through to about the 1930s. Obviously there's all these 800-year-old hardwood rainforest timbers. They chopped them down left, right and centre. They threw them in the Barren River. And the idea was that they float down the river and they catch them down at the inlet. But it wasn't very productive. They reckon they lost more trees than they ever retrieved. They'd get stuck in little tributaries and creeks along the way, so they never made it down there. Others would go over the Barren Falls, hit the rocks at the bottom at the right angle and turn into 10,000 pieces. And others didn't get picked up at the inlet. For whatever reason, the boom was pretty rubbish and they floated over or underneath and ended up on a beach in Torres Strait Island somewhere. So by the time 1930 came around, they decided to stop the logging. It wasn't working. At which point they've got all this cleared land in rainforest country, high rainfall areas, good soil, so farming, obvious choice. Back then they started doing all sorts of stuff, sugarcane, bananas, they were big ones, but there was tea, a bit of coffee, all sorts of things. After each of the wars, population started to grow, so bigger demands, more food. And those farms started to push west, they started to come this way. And that was okay up until a point. Obviously they get to a point where they're not in the rainforest anymore. The soil's not bad, but there's nowhere near the water out here that they've got, 100k closer to the coast. So it was kind of late 1950s, mid to late 50s. They decided to dam up a valley up in the Tablelands. Now we know it as Lake Tinaroo. And there's about 160 or 180 kilometres of irrigation network that then spans across the Tablelands area, bringing water out this way. So collecting it in the rainforest country, but channeling it to the dry savanna country. The main crop that they wanted to irrigate and grow out here was tobacco. Tobacco likes a bit of water, but it doesn't like rainforest conditions. Apparently a lot of mould and fungus and stuff like grew on the leaves wasn't very good. It likes the hot, dry areas, so it just needs a bit of water to keep up to it. So this particular area was absolutely dominated by tobacco. And you've got to remember, that's back when tobacco was healthy for you. Back when, 9 out of 10 doctors thoroughly recommended it. But as the years went on, especially when we came into the 90s, the science caught up. Tobacco's bad. So the government was offering a lot of the tobacco farmers in the area subsidies and financial assistance if they wanted to get out of growing tobacco and grow something healthier for you, like sugarcane. Anyway, the government would help you make that transition. So a lot of those tobacco farmers took the opportunity, took the government money, got rid of their tobacco, and they put in mangoes, they put in limes, pawpaws, grapes, watermelons, rock melons, all sorts of things, just heaps of stuff. A whole bunch of tobacco farmers didn't take the opportunity as well. They were proud tobacco farmers, and I think they kind of figured that with less of a supply there'll be more demand. They can charge a little bit more for their tobacco. But the big cigarette companies didn't give a rat's about paying the prices that the North Queensland farmer wanted. They could buy tobacco a hell of a lot cheaper than third world countries. So by the time 2002 came around, that was the very last tobacco harvest in the area. And those farmers then had to transition to something else by themselves. Today, the Tablelands area is still a massive food production area. Every now and then, me and the family, I drive up on the weekend, and if you, I bring up $50 worth of change. You drive along the Tablelands, it's a lovely drive, there's lots to see, but outside pretty much every single farm, there's one of those little honesty boxes. They've got a little cart, they've got a bunch of their produce there, and for a couple of bucks, you can pick up a hell of a lot of potatoes. By the time you're done, you've got enough fruit and veggies to last you for a fortnight. So the main ones that we see through the little bit of area that we're travelling through now is mangoes. You'll see a lot of mangoes. You'll see a lot of citrus, mostly limes. They grow lots and lots of limes. Tea tree. That's a good one. They grow a lot of tea tree for the production of tea tree oil. And avocados as well. They're probably 4 main crops that we go past. So these are limes here out on the right hand side. If you have a look, there's usually heaps of limes all lying on the ground underneath the trees. You see, when I first came out here, I just looked at what's that all about? What a bloody waste that is. It took me years to get an answer as to why they do that. We became friends with some lime and mango farmers a little bit closer to Mareeba, and I went and stayed on their property once with my tent, and I asked them, what's the go with all the limes everywhere? And they said, oh, they're the C grade limes, we can't sell them, no one wants them. I said, why? She said, because they're not the right size. They're either too small or too big. I was like, okay. She said, look, come down to the packing shed, I'll show you. So they went down there, they've got this big lime sorting machine, and it sorts out the medium sized ones and then puts the big and the small ones over there. So the grade A limes are a nice medium size, nice uniform green colour. They put a bit of a wax on it, polish it up, they sit in a nice little container, a nice little box on the shelf in the supermarket. That's your grade A stuff. Your grade B was the same size, same medium size, but maybe there's a little bit of fading on it, a little yellow spot or something like that. Those ones get packed up into boxes and they go to juicing companies, but they also go to bars, restaurants and pubs for drinks and cocktails and beers and stuff like that. The C grade stuff, it's either smaller or bigger. And I said to her, well, what's wrong with it? Like, okay, fair enough, the small ones, people get annoyed having to chop up a whole bunch of little things. Why are the big ones not wanted? Like, you'd think people would want a nice big lime that's full of juice. And she told me, and I still find it hard to believe, but what dictates the perfect size lime for the entire lime growing industry is the diameter of a Corona beer bottle neck. Crazy, eh? If it's too small, when you chop that lime up into 16 pieces, it falls all the way into the beer. People don't like that, they take that back. Can you give me another one? If it's too big, they can't fit it in there properly. People don't like that either. I could not believe that. So she said, yeah, they don't want it unless it's that perfect size. It slots down the neck of a beer. Absolutely lickety split. They don't want it. That's all tea tree there on the left. They let it grow like 1.5 metres, chop it off, sprouts back. All the clippings, they stick them in these big distillers, oil up the tea tree oil. A lot of grass is grown out here to be baled up and sent off to feedlots and graziers. In front of us, you can see the one on the left is another one of these ones that's not currently in production. Compare that with the one on the right that is. You can see they trim the trees, they try and keep it pretty small, this kind of square shape. That promotes more horizontal growth of the branches so backpackers can reach the mangoes pretty much. They've all got to be hand picked, you can't use a machine, it bruises the fruit too easily. So this is Dimbulah, a barren word that means long water hole. It's in reference to part of the Walsh River, not too far from town. Now pull up at the station, like I said, the Dimbulah Historical Society, they've got your afternoon tea ready, $5 a person if you want to get into it. Otherwise, straight across the road, Junction Hotel, head on over there and have a couple of beers. For the $5 you get tea, coffee, they normally have cakes and biscuits and slices and bloody quiches and any local fruits and seeds, and they've got all sorts of stuff there. If you've got your Savannahlander cup handy, use that. Cuts back on the single-use ones that they give you. They also sell this cold drinks there, they've got ice cream sale and bags of dried mango. So any of the mangoes that don't get sold out here, the volunteers do their best to chop them up, stick them in a dehydrator, pack them all up into bags. They're very, very popular. Our passengers quite often buy them out. Now we've got a nice aluminium ramp that we are going to line up with the front door of the rear unit. So if you're in this front unit, you just have to walk through the carriages, get to the rear one. And Hamish will have a nice aluminium ramp, make getting off the train very, very easy. Now we're doing pretty good for time. It would be great to get out of here in about 35 minutes, so 2:45. It'll be good to depart here. That'll keep us on time. Get us back to Cuidad while there's still plenty of light. Hamish will get that ramp out. We'll see you back for 2:45 departure.